Rock photographer Christian Treiber was there when Keith Moon was doing, well, a lot of crazy stuff, and he shares a lot of those stories with us. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. In rock and roll, not a lot of people can say, I was there, or I knew the guy who knew the guy who knew the second cousin of the person who was there when that happened, or whatever. But Christian Treiber, who photographed an awful lot of people, Derek and the Dominoes, George Harrison, Jimi Hendrix, Mott the Hoople, Richie Havens, Rod Stewart, among many, many others. He also had a chance to hang out quite a bit with The Who when they were on the road. And he has some interesting stories. Because, when you talk about Keith Moon, for instance, the stories are juicy.
I worked with him. I went to the hotels with him. I got a lot of backstories, which if the book gets published, it's going to talk about a lot of the things, like the time I went to visit the group and went into Keith's room, and Keith says, you got to do me a favor. Got to do me a favor. I said, what do you want? He says, I want a 100-foot extension cord, heavy duty, and a bottle of Jack Daniels. I said, okay. So I went out and got the stuff, brought it back up to his hotel room. He plugged the TV into the extension cord, put it on the windows ledge, sat there drinking the Jack Daniels, and all of a sudden he says, nothing good on TV. He took his feet and gave it a kick, and the TV went flying out the window. You could hear the sound all the way till he hit near the bottom, and then there was an explosion.
He was wired differently than most people.
Yeah, he was. He was extremely creative. I think what they now call a dissociated personality, I think he was bipolar. I could be wrong, but I know I've identified that in a number of different personalities I've met over the years. They just seem to have that thing. I mean, he used to do stuff like that all the time. I mean, there was one incident I wasn't going to talk about, but I'll tell you about, where he put towels underneath the doors and turned the room into a swimming pool. And when we went out on the balcony, we see all the furniture piled up, and he says, come on, we're going swimming. He was dressed in a bathing suit, flippers, and a snorkel. We follow him down. There's 3 naked girls on rafts floating around in this room, and he just dove into the water. A couple of days later, it cost $310,000 worth of damage, which they paid.
Yeah, and they could pay.
From that point on, though, they could not stay in the same hotel together. They separated them. They had each member in a different hotel with different people accompanying them, roadies, whatever, to make sure they did what they were supposed to do, and so forth. Because the hotels wouldn't book them together. If they booked them together, they were afraid of more damage.
Was there downtime with him, though? I mean, was he always on, or was he just a normal guy at times?
I would say he was on the verge all the time. He seemed to be, anyway. I mean, I really got to be very friendly with him because when they were playing at the Fillmore, a friend of his, who I'm still friends with in England, Legs Larry Smith, who was with a group called the Bonzo Dog Band, which is actually how I got my photographs in Trouser Press magazine, because the publisher of Bonzos, and I was actually listed as an American Bonzo and reportedly sang the song San Francisco, which was actually a fact. Keith Moon got me involved in that.
Wow.
They wanted somebody that couldn't sing. They wanted somebody that was absolutely horrendously bad. And the idea was he's supposed to be singing and everybody's going to be clapping and applauding and saying what a great singer and all this kind of stuff. And it was just the intro to San Francisco, and then it disappears. I think it's called, the album is something like Donut and Granny's Greenhouse or something like that. It's also on the greatest hits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having said what you said, I think it was 1978 when he passed. What was your reaction? What was the first thing you thought about when you heard he passed?
It didn't surprise me because of the drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody else in his right mind that would take horse tranquilizers, which he did at one of the gigs and actually passed out on stage. And they had to carry him off stage. And they finished the concert by pulling some from the audience to fill in for Keith.
Yeah, I have that recording. I have Pete. I don't know if it was Roger or Pete who was asking the audience, "Can anyone play our songs?" Like, I wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't have that recording. It was an interesting thing to happen. And there were other times when Keith didn't even show up because he overslept. Everybody thought he was on the plane, and they actually had to send another plane back for him or get him on another flight to make the gig because he was still in the other town.
Like, for instance, when you were with The Who, I'm kind of trying to picture who you were then. How old were you, and what were you thinking when all this was going on?
I think I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
I believe that's probably what it was. I'm not really sure of the exact word. I'm 78 now, believe it or not. I don't feel it. I don't think I look it. I don't think I sound like a 78-year-old man.
No, not at all.
And another thing that happened, which was really, really great, is I was staying in London again. We used to go back and forth, do different things over there. And I went and I was staying in a hotel. Keith got a hold of me and says, "How would you like to go to a very special concert tonight?" And I said, "Sure. What concert?" He said, "I won't tell you, but he says it's very, very special." I said, "Okay." So his limousine pulls up in front of the hotel with Legs Larry. And we were driving through London, and finally we stop at the place, and he's driving around the block over and over and over again. Couldn't find a parking space. So he finally got angry, stopped the car, pulled it up on the sidewalk, took a piece of cardboard and wrote, "Moon's Beagle, hands off coppers." And we went in. And the concert was at a place called the Speakeasy, which is a private club. I think the membership was like £1,500 a year or something like that. And it was actually the debut for only special friends of Derek and the Dominoes. And I wasn't supposed to have a camera, but I did have a small little, the ones that they have with a film already in it, and they're disposable. And I did take some pictures, and not the greatest, but I was able to take some shots of that night anyway.
I saw some of those, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. But whatever he was around, we just hang out together and have a good time. I mean, he just did all kinds of crazy things, but he was a fun person to be with.
You never felt your life was in danger?
No, not at all.
So,
I mean, he offered me stuff at different times, and I just told him, "No, I'm not interested."
not a lot of people can say, "I lived it. I was there." You know?
Well, I did that most of my life. I was very lucky because I've always believed in one philosophy. Number one, treat people the way you want to be treated yourself. I think that's very, very important. I also felt that these groups are constantly grilled and asked questions which the groups don't really want to talk about. What I'm saying is they don't want to talk about what kind of strings they use, what key they play in, whether they use a capo, all this different stuff. That's something they hear all the time. That when they get off stage, when they're off in their private time, they want to forget about it. They want to put it behind them. They want to talk about their family, talk about soccer, talk about the news, whatever else, but stay away from music. It's like two different separate identities in a way.
Yeah, it's under that category of, be cool.
And as a result, it's paid off because, to be honest with you, I was shocked. About 3-4 years ago, I started getting friends requests from different people I met or photographed in the industry that remembered me 50 years later.
Yeah. Don't you find that kind of goes full circle? I think a lot of the people that I interview, and I interview a lot of people of my ilk, of my era, mostly your era, and I find that it's come full circle as them wanting to tell those stories and then also wanting to reach out. So I'm not surprised. Are you surprised that they're reaching out?
I just didn't think that I was anything special. I was amazed that they would reach out after 50 years.
But you were there. But you were there, though. I can understand that. We lost Keith Moon on September 7th, 1978. The shock was immense. Even though we all knew he lived a reckless life, there's something about someone who's larger than life that you don't expect them to die. But, through the years, we've learned that that's not the case. We lose a lot of them. Christian will be talking about a lot of other bands that he hung out with. There's a great segment coming up. We're going to try to put it out next week where he talks about Badfinger. Remember, 3 of the 4 dudes are no longer with us. When you talk about management from hell stories, people always talk about Badfinger first. So more of that coming up next week. And again, thank you for subscribing to our channel. We're at 36,000 now. Thank you so much. So if you watch our videos, make sure you subscribe. Comment on our videos and share them. On social media, please share them. We'd love for you to do that. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music.